Hi everyone, Bill Duvendack here with the September 2022 monthly astrological preview video. There's a lot going on in September, so get cozy, grab your pen and paper, and away we go. Before we start with September, let us roll back the calendar a little bit to the end of August. On August 27th, we had the new moon in Virgo, which means it's a good time for new beginnings having to do with health, having to do with your daily work routine, having to do with your diet, and having to do with being of service to others. Now, this last one, being of service, is an important point, and most people ignore it. Being in a spot for new beginnings having to do with being of service means that if you're not currently being of service to the species, now's the time to start. If you are being of service to humanity, then now's the time to take it to the next level or change the things that need to be changed. So that energy brings us into September, and September begins with a couple of aspect patterns that are pretty powerful. They can be very intense, and if you're not careful, they can catch you off guard. On the 1st, we start off with a Grand Cross and fixed signs. Now, for those of you that may not know astrological patterns, a Grand Cross is a very pressurizing pattern. And what this means is you may feel like a lot of pressure is brought to bear on you. You may feel like there's a lot of challenges, but within those challenges can lie growth opportunities. An easy way to navigate this is to remember that it's only through pressure that coal becomes a diamond. So what that means is the more that you work with the pressurizing aspects that start off September on the 1st and then carrying to a lesser degree on the 2nd, the more you are transforming yourself into a higher state of being. Now, the fact that this is happening in fixed signs means one of the ways to proceed with this is to be a disciple to something. When I say disciple, some people may think of the band. Other people might think of being a disciple of someone. But you can be a disciple of a belief. You can be a disciple of an idea. So, in other words, continue forward into September with the status quo, but don't be so rigid in your beliefs that it constricts your thinking and prevents you from seeing things in a new way. This aspect pattern of the Grand Cross on the 1st continues in a lesser intense way on the 2nd, and therefore we see that the first few days of September are all about basically making us pay attention, seeing what's working, what's not, and if it's not, either fixing it or letting go our concern of it. On September 3rd, we have the moon in Sagittarius opposing Mars in Gemini, and this creates a very interesting situation. It's not as intense as the first 2 days in September, but it does say be careful while traveling, for you might be more accident prone. Also, watch your words. For many years, I was a big fan of being brutally honest because people were not being honest, and it was the most direct way to get through to people. But then, as I saw discussions on the internet last year, I noticed the theme, and a theme is that you don't have to be brutally honest to be honest. You can be compassionately honest. Now, with Mercury sextiling the moon on the 3rd, you may find this is a good day to be honest with others and be honest with yourself, but you don't have to be a jerk about it. You can do it compassionately. You can speak truth without offending people. Holy shit, did you hear that, GOP in the US? So these first 3 days in September, the first 2 start off nice and tense, and then you can see how if you didn't handle the pressure well in the first 2 days, it's really going to screw up the 3rd. So the theme of September for these first few days is pressure, forcing you out of your comfort zone, forcing you to grow, while at the same time being true to what you believe in. On the 4th, we have a grand trine between Venus, the moon, and Jupiter and Chiron in Aries. A grand trine is a positive but dormant aspect, and usually when it's present, it tells us you are in a position to create long-term positive growth in a very big, expansive kind of way. So on the 4th, you may find it time to reevaluate your romantic and your personal relationships in the name of healing, growth, expansion, and prosperity. Or you may find by recognizing your wounds, it puts you in a better position to handle your emotions. On the 5th, Venus moves into Virgo. And, it cracks me up because one of the key ideas of Venus in Virgo is cleaning. So starting from the 5th on for a few weeks until Venus changes signs, you may find it's a good time to clean. Get out the duster. Get out the vacuum. Now, this also means personal cleanliness. So if you've gotten into a habit of not taking care of yourself, now's a good time to fix that. Whether it is shaving, something very simple, or whether it is something more complex like kicking an addiction that is very harmful to the body. Regardless of what it is, during the month of September, it's wise to do that. Now, Venus in Virgo also tells us you might find more money laying around the office. So it behooves you to go through those stacks of paperwork that have gathered on your desk and navigate the clutter to find the hidden gems. On the 6th, we have an Earth grand trine happening between the Sun, the Moon-Pluto conjunction, and the Uranus North Node conjunction. So, same idea with the grand trine that we just talked about 2 days earlier on the 4th. The difference is this one has to do with the physical plane. So the grand trine in fire on the 4th is saying it's time to get active. Now on the 6th, it's saying it's no more about being intellectually active. Now it's time to be physically active. So get out and do all the stuff. Do all the things. On the 8th, 2 days later, we have the moon conjunct Saturn in Aquarius. And this tells us you may find that on that day, your fears are distorted. Your ability to express your emotions healthily may be restricted or constricted. And a lot of this, has to do with getting along with other people. You're noticing these themes here. The Virgo new moon on the 27th of August was all about being of service to others. This one is all about seeing your fears in context of the greater whole. And personally, I think that's one of the worst problems we face right now is that people are choosing conflict rather than resolution. A phrase that's been going through my head lately is a phrase that's found on the United States currency. That phrase is e pluribus unum, out of the many, the one. And when I look around right now in society, I'm seeing more manys than one, and that's a problem. And I realize that I'm talking from a United States perspective here, but look at your own nations. Is there division or is there unity? If there's unity, good. Then this Moon-Saturn conjunction tells us now is a good time to implement long-standing plans and put your emotions aside if they are truly inconsequential. Now, if you look around at your nation and there's a lot of division, well, now's the time to ask yourself, how can you fix that? Not how can you adapt, not how can you navigate, how can you fix it? Because there's a good chance what you're afraid of is paranoia and therefore mental illness. On the 9th, we have the moon in Pisces opposing Venus in Virgo. So you may find stress with regards to your romantic relationships. You might also find stress present with regards to money coming your way from the workplace. Another way to look at this opposition is that tension might be present with regards to cleaning. So you may know that you need to clean, but you choose not to clean, and that's not a good choice. Now, it doesn't mean you have to do it. You can delegate it out to someone else if you have the resources. Part of this aspect is also saying that you may find that you want to indulge in spiritual escapism rather than spiritual reality. So be ready for a reality check on that day. On the 9th and 10th is also the full moon, depending on where you're at in the nation, and it's Mercury stationing retrograde and Neptune conjunct the moon. What a mouthful. So basically what this is saying is the full moon right there on the 9th and 10th of September is going to be a doozy. First of all, there's the new moon. So there's going to be tension between Virgo energies and Pisces energies. Virgo, we've been talking about a lot. Pisces is the energy of the visionary, the progressive, the psychic, the astrologer, the empath, those with strong emotions. You know, it's often said that Scorpio is a still lake. Cancer is a larger lake or a stream in motion, and then Pisces is the ocean. So that's kind of how you can understand the energy of all three of those water signs. Now, the fact that Mercury is stationing retrograde on that day tells us to watch your words, watch your travel, watch what you say on digital tools such as a laptop or a tablet or a smartphone or a computer. And the Neptune moon conjunction tells us that you might want to just hide. Not a good idea. Find the balance between hiding and being engaged in society around you. On the 11th, we have the moon conjunct Jupiter in Aries, opposing the Mercury retrograde in Libra. Moon conjunct Jupiter, especially in Aries, tells us you might be guilty of having a big head. If you're not careful, your ego may cause problems. It also means you might feel things more sensitively than normal. So it's wise to recognize that and breathe deeply before responding. And the fact that it's opposing Mercury retrograde in Libra tells us your communication might be challenged. It tells us that you might have to put in extra work to get along with others. On the 12th, we have the moon sliding over to be conjunct Chiron in Aries. And it is opposing the Venus retrograde in Libra. So you may find that through communication foibles or mishaps, it triggers your wounds. Or maybe you go into the conversation with your wounds already raw and exposed, and the other person puts you in your place because that's not how we're supposed to be from a healthy perspective. So regardless, you see that the 11th and 12th can provide a lot of opportunities to exercise emotional control. You might also find it is a good time to put your ego in check and get rid of the toxicity that oftentimes comes from arrogance and thinking you know what's best for others, or at least knowing what's best for yourself. The 13th is nice and quiet, but on the 14th we come back to a grand trine in Earth with the Sun, the Moon, and Uranus, and the North Node, and Pluto, and this extends to the 15th. So you may find that a good way to navigate the emotional challenges of the last 2 days is to bury yourself in your work. Get things done. Get the lead out. Bust your butt, as some of the old timers say. Now, on the 16th, the moon is conjunct Mars in Gemini, and the sun is opposing Neptune. So, what this means is your temper might be shorter, you might be more accident prone, but both of these will fade quickly due to the Gemini nature. You might also find that you speak emotionally rather than intelligently. And the sun opposing Neptune says that on this day in particular, it might be a case of the fact that you can dish it out to someone, but you can't take it. And that, my friends, is toxic, unevolved, immature reactions. It's hypocrisy. If you can dish it out, you better be able to take it. If you know you can't take it, don't dish it out. Pretty easy lesson for the 16th. Now, on the 17th, we have a T square like we had on the 2nd, only this one is in mutable signs. So the difference between the two is that September starts off with encouraging you to maintain your disciple like behavior in the name of staying true to yourself, but not being so rigid that you don't adapt when necessary. And the 17th says, now it's time to reinvent yourself. Now it's time to come back to life. Now it's time to guide how you go with the flow. And then on the 18th, we have the moon square sun. So we have the quarter moon. And this tells us on that day in particular, you may find that your emotions are not in line with your intellect. You may find, and I don't say this often, but you may find that your intuition is off. Or perhaps you have to leave home to go to work, and that's annoying and inconvenient, but I assure you it's the right thing to do. So here we are, a little over halfway through the month, and you can see that a major theme of these first 15 days is tumultuous. That's especially true from the 1st till the 9th when we have the full moon, but then from the 9th to the 18th, it might still be tumultuous, but it would be inner, not outer. So you can see how there's a transition that's occurring that's right in line with the sun sign and the migration from Virgo to Libra. On the 19th, we have the moon square Chiron. So you might find that you are overly sensitive to the words of others. And it's probably due to recognizing that your own emotions and your own wounds are not where you want them to be. Or maybe it's recognizing the limits that come from the wounds that you have. You know, as much as many of us talk about and believe that we are unlimited beings of full potential, I can tell you from knowing a lot of people, sometimes your body dictates that you do have limits. Sometimes your mind, especially in the case of mental illness, dictates that you've got limits. So we have to work within structure. It's a lesson of Saturn. And being able to spot this, working within it, and knowing how to navigate it and apply it are all good things to do. On the 20th, we have the moon opposing uh, Pluto in Capricorn, so we see that energy continue. And the 19th and 20th might be challenging times for romantic relationships because on the 19th we also have Mars squaring Venus. So you may find that words accidentally wound. And you might also find that if you have a spendthrift nature, it might work against you. So watch your spending for those 2 days. 21st is nice and quiet. On the 22nd, we have the Sun conjunct Mercury in Libra retrograde. So it's a good time to wrap things up. And I don't mean like individual projects that we've got going on. I mean overall themes of your life. So taking a long, hard, honest look at yourself and seeing where to go from here, what changes need to happen, and what you can do about it. Now, also on the 22nd, we have Mars sextiling Chiron. So you might find that it's a good time to get together and talk to people for the sake of healing your wounds. You might also find that it is a good time to actually do something about your wounds. And what I mean by that is physically doing something. So, in other words, if you're angry, doing some cleaning. Or perhaps if you are sad, burying yourself in your work to take your mind off of it. On the 23rd, we have the Sun conjunct Mercury retrograde continuing, and we also have equinox. Now, for those of you in the southern hemisphere, this is spring equinox. For those of you in the northern hemisphere, it is the autumn equinox, which means that basically through the 24th or so, you might find there's some inner turmoil as you adjust to the new astrological season. You might also find that the balance is off within yourself, or that your balance with the outside world is off. So it's a good time to address those things and see the playing field before we move into the latter part of the calendar year. On the 24th, we have Venus conjunct the Mercury retrograde, now in Virgo. This tells us it's a good time to enjoy the process of wrapping things up. It's a good time to enjoy the cleaning out process. And I know a lot of people have problems enjoying the Mercury retrograde, and I still don't understand why. I mean, yeah, I did when I was younger and first learning astrology, so if that's where you're at, then I get it. But I can tell you after decades of experience that there does come a point where you just learn to enjoy it, enjoy the conflict, enjoy the universe telling you, hey, you need to wrap these things up because it's better than no communication at all. And the only thing that creates the pain is our own egos, problems, and personal toxicity. You can throw narcissism in there too. But the fact of the matter is that there on the 24th, it's a good time to enjoy it. Now, you might also find that by resolving a lot of workplace situations that have been hanging out, you find some money laying around you didn't know about. Or maybe while you're cleaning your house, you find that $20 bill behind the lazy boy. Whatever it might be, it's a good reminder that Mercury retrogrades are not dark times. They're simply times. Our egos make them dark or not. On the 25th, we have the new moon, and it is conjunct Mercury and Venus in Virgo. So you can see how the new moon, while it's in Libra, is going to have a lot of Virgo influence. So you might find that it is challenging to find the fulcrum point between being too grounded and too cerebral, or maybe being analytical in your speech when you should be more open and easy flowing. So there's a lot to unpack there. It's all about new beginnings in Libra, though, with the new moon, and specifically, these beginnings would have to do with how you get along with others. So your personal relationships, your romantic relationships, and on a more tangible note, you may find that any legal matters that you have pressing, that this is a day that they get resolved, or it's a good day for you to make forward progress on getting them resolved. The 26th and the 27th brings an air grand trine between the moon, Mars, and Saturn. So you may find it's a good time to brainstorm. You may find it's a good time to reach out and talk to people and do some networking in the name of long-term growth. So look for Mr. or Mrs. Right, not Mr. or Miss Right now. Deferred gratification is always a fantastic course of action if the situation is appropriate to that. On the 28th, it's nice and quiet. And on the 29th, we have Venus moving into Libra. And remember what I said at the beginning of this video. When Venus moves into Libra, it's a good time to stop working on stuff. Now it's a good time to reach out to people. So you've basically got about 3 weeks to clean. Now, when Venus moves into Libra, we find that Venus is in its own sign. So you might find your personal relationships get better. Keep in mind that this is in context of the Mercury retrograde. So, what this means is you might find healing through resolving personal conflicts. You might find money laying around by severing ties of people or things that weigh you down. You might also find that things go your way in those legal situations and affairs that I just mentioned. But that can be sticky because if it goes your way, there's a chance it's not going someone else's way. So Venus in Libra says maybe it goes good ways for all involved. Now, also on that day, we have a fixed sign T square. Remember what I said at the beginning? We've got a lot of pressure on that day on the 29th then. So while it might be good for personal relationships, you might find that when it comes to your emotions and maturing, that's the challenges. So changing your own behavior patterns would be wise to do on that day. You might also find that this is a good day to reach out to people that, how do I put this? It might be a good day to reach out to people that you know you got to have the deep, intense conversations with, and you even know it's not going to go well. But if you don't speak up, then you might hate yourself for a long time. It's that kind of vibe on the 29th. And then to round out the month, on the 30th, we have a Sun Venus conjunction opposing Jupiter and Saturn. So this is an interesting one because the Sun Venus conjunction usually brings good things, whether it's love or money or getting along with people or legal resolution in your favor. And that's all well and good. But the opposition to Jupiter in Aries tells us that this is a day you don't want to get carried away. So, yes, make the connections. Yes, indulge in all the personal relationship good stuff that's flowing your way. But if you get carried away with it, it might work against your expansion and your prosperity. So, another way to look at it would be, yeah, if you owe someone a thank you and you decide to take them out for a drink, that's fine, but don't let that drink turn into 10. Or you may find that you get so wrapped up in talking to people because the relationships are good, you forget to do what you need to do for yourself. So that's a problem as well. Finally, to wrap this up, I'm putting this at the end. So those of you that want to have a quick reference, you've got it right here at about the 27-minute mark or so, is the fact that Mercury is going to be retrograde in Libra from the 9th or 10th of September till October 3rd, when it ends retrograde in Virgo. So first of all, for those of you that are Libra Sun, Libra Moon, or Libra Ascendant, this can be a very challenging month because it will impact your overall quality and direction of life. For those of you that are Aries or Cancer or Capricorn, this could be a very trying Mercury retrograde because it's going to bring things to the surface that are agitations and irritations. And then when it backslides into Virgo, you may find that Virgos, Pisces, Geminis, and Sagittarians have a lot of problems that go with it, but these would be more minor. And I point this out because basically, if you are a Libra, this month could be very, very rough. And if you're any of the other signs that I mentioned, whether Sun, Moon, or Ascendant, you may find that it's a rough month, but not as rough as it could be. So anyway, that is the forecast for September 2022. Thank you, Adam Knox and the Cult of You, for this platform or for putting these out every month. We've been doing this about a month and a year and a half now, and it's been going fantastic. We're also looking ahead to plans for next year. And remember, if you like this, check out my daily horoscopes on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Check out the monthly horoscopes on my website. And remember, until we chat again, may we all receive blessings of good health, prosperity, and success as we move forward in the next month of our lives. So mote it be.